Hi, thank you both. So the Vice President of Finance position is given the responsibility of serving as a liaison to USG-recognized student organizations. They serve as the Chief Financial Officer of USG. This individual must supervise the efforts of the USG treasurers and be easily available to the department assistant in the Student Activities and Leadership Office. So with that, you each have a minute and a half opening statements. We will start with Preeti. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well as we come to the end of the semester. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Preeti Naik, and I am currently a third-year student studying computer science and finance. And I've been a member of USG since early in my sophomore year. And I have spent the last 2 semesters serving as one of USG's treasurers. And as treasurer, I've had the opportunity to interact directly with fellow students in USG recognized clubs and to hear their questions and concerns, and through that to observe potential gaps in our communication or the information that we provided as a recognizing body. And during my time in USG and in this position, I have learned a lot about our communication, about our responsibilities to the clubs that we recognize and to the students that we serve. And I really look forward to being able to create the necessary improvements. While the work that we do already is wonderful and does take a lot of effort and time, there's always so much more that we could be doing, and I'd love to help move that forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Liam, now you're up.
Thanks, Nathan. And thanks to our Elections Commission for putting this together. It's great to have the opportunity to share ideas all together like this. So my name is Liam Matthews. I'm a junior studying biomedical engineering and have been in USG since my first year at CASE and most recently served as one of USG's treasurers alongside Preeti. This past year, our student body was met with immense challenges, yet despite this, our fellow undergrads formed nearly 20 new USG clubs and filed over 400 risk management plans with the Student Activities and Leadership Office. Unfortunately, many students were unable to participate in these events as they were still studying remotely scattered around the world. However, with the university's intention of fully in-person operations in the upcoming fall semester, many of these students will be returning to Cleveland. And along with this comes an opportunity to revive our community and for the first time, show our first and second year students what CWRU and its incredible student organizations truly have to offer. While the points outlined in my letter of intent are not a comprehensive list of everything I would like to accomplish as your VP of Finance, I feel it does reveal my top priority: to enable clubs to focus on planning incredible events for our community rather than finances and procedures. I hope to earn your vote in this election and look forward to answering any questions that you have about my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you. To start us off, given our hopefully our transition back to in-person classes next semester, what sort of funding priorities do you see becoming most important for clubs heading into the new academic year? And Liam, you can start us off.
So I definitely think that in-person events are going to be one of the club's priorities. Along with that, we still will probably have students participating remotely. And something that we've seen this year that's been incredibly important is the ability to have virtual club operations as well. So we've had a number of innovative ideas, such as lots of clubs starting podcasts or recording music, things like that. So I think keeping the options open, definitely, but also realizing that in-person events are going to be a priority and working with the Office of Student Activities and Leadership to make sure that all those resources are available.
Preeti?
Yeah, I think definitely as we come into this new year with a lot of new students coming back on campus, I think it is going to be a really big priority for clubs to hold these in-person events. Especially we've had a lot of new clubs that were recognized this year for them to really start those in-person operations and to start building those connections to one another and rebuilding those connections from people who were off campus for a while is going to be very important. And being able to do all of that in a safe way is obviously going to be a very high priority. So as Liam said, having those resources available to them for safety In addition to that, I think with this new environment and with the excitement of getting back on campus, there is going to be a lot of innovation, a lot of new ideas. And so I think a big part of our job is going to be doing rolling funding really well and making sure that that's available and still available throughout the summer, throughout the semester, as clubs continue to come up with new innovative ideas.
Thank you. So this next question kind of gets at what your perspectives on the role of clubs are on this campus. So that being said, should USG fund more internal events within clubs, such as retreats, or focus more on larger campus-wide events? Preeti, you're up.
So I think that's a great question. I think clubs serve the purpose, I think, at their core of connecting the community. And that involves both connecting the people in the club to one another, because these are people who have all chosen to become a part of this organization, to participate because they're interested in the same thing and they share the same values or ideas or even just the same interest. And at the same time, they also serve to connect the people within the club to people outside of it. And the goal is always to keep keep building those connections and keep inviting people in. And part of a club's growth and their ability to continue is being able to invite people in. So I think we should, as we do now in our financing guidelines, I think we should continue to focus on events that are available to the community. Um, I think internal events are important, and so we do allow for funding those, but having those events where new people can come in and be invited into that community is important, and I think the core purpose of the clubs, and we should continue to focus on that.
Liam?
Yeah, pretty much along the same lines as Preeti. I think, every student's paying the student activities fee, so they should be able to join clubs and in those clubs take leadership roles and do what they want to do with those clubs. But at the same time, I do think that clubs are what give this university its incredible campus community. And one thing that I would prioritize is making sure that clubs have or at least are aware of all of the potential avenues of funding. So not necessarily just USG, but partnering with the SEC Allocations Committee or other offices for co-sponsorships if they maybe want to take that next step. If they haven't done typical, larger events that are open to more people, helping them through that process to essentially open it up to the greater campus community.
Thank you both. Moving forward, do you think rolling funding is fulfilling its purpose? And then going from there, what type of things should be funded? Liam, you can start.
So I do think rolling funding is fulfilling its purpose. I think there's some concerns that we could address in terms of the amounts of the funding and how it's dispersed. Right now, it's at a first come, first served basis. So we can definitely look into that. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
What should be funded? What type of things?
What should be funded? So currently our guidelines are set up so that you cannot fund anything through rolling funding that was requested in mass funding. So really the purpose of rolling funding is to allow clubs to be able to put on events that they may not have thought of or planned for or budgeted for in the previous semester in the mass funding applications. So I would like to keep it to those things that were not originally funding, but that clubs still want to put on for the greater campus community.
Thank you. Preeti?
Okay, so I think rolling funding does to an extent definitely serve its purpose, which I think at its core is to help fund new and innovative ideas that clubs are coming up with during the semester that they might not have thought of during mass funding, because mass funding is generally quite a bit far out from the actual semester that the funding is available within. So I think to an extent, rolling funding is definitely serving that purpose. And we definitely do get new and innovative ideas that students want to fund. And at the same time, there are definitely things that we do end up funding that I think would be more suited for mass funding because they're more about supporting ongoing operations of the club for things like capital purchases. Um, and I think we could definitely reevaluate our guidelines that we use for rolling funding in that respect. I think we have kind of avoided that because we do like to avoid putting sort of our subjective opinion on what we think is new or innovative in what a club is doing. But I think looking at it from the perspective of the purpose that we want it to serve, there's definitely room for adjustment.
Great, thank you. So moving forward, a little bit more technical question. How do you hope to approach the continuing issue of USG exec, a rollover in USG exec spending? What changes do you think have to be made or have been made in previous years that have been particularly promising? And Preeti, excuse me.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. I butchered that one a little bit. So how do you hope to approach the continuing issue of rollover in USG exec spending? What changes have been made in previous years that have been particularly promising, if any, that type of thing?
So I'm not aware of any changes that have been made to that process in the previous years. But I think that one of our biggest goals, I think, as finance is definitely to make sure that we distribute as much of our portion of the SAF as possible, because this is money that the students are paying and we really want to get it back out to them and serving them. So any money that we have rolling over, I think we should find new ways to distribute that to clubs, whether that is putting that towards rolling funding in future semesters where it becomes needed, especially, for example, in a semester like this where there was so much change that students and clubs were going through, and where there could have been a lot of room for innovation and ideas that we would be able to support with that. But another really important idea that I think has come up this year is establishing a sort of internal fund for USG-based initiatives, which I think is really important because all of our initiatives are, again, meant to serve the student body. And a lot of times initiatives don't get off the ground because they don't have, the $100, the $200 that it takes to fund the initiative. So I think that's actually a really very interesting idea that we've been able to put in place. And I'm really excited to see going forward how that's able to support USG in supporting the students.
Thank you. Liam?
Yeah, so I'm also not specifically aware of that particular issue. But I think, as Preeti said, our goal is to, not roll any money over. So we want to, we get the allocation from the student activities fee that every single student on campus pays, and we want to get that back out to all the clubs as quickly as possible within that given semester. And then also touching on the USG fund that Preeti mentioned that we recently established. I do see the benefits of that fund, especially when it comes to these USG initiatives, but I think it's going to be extremely important to have a rigorous application process to ensure that the initiatives that are funded through that fund do in fact benefit the entire student body. And also it's important to remember that we, as the VP of Finance, we kind of do reserve the right to fill that fund up to, I think the current amount is $12,000, but we don't have to fill it up to that. So in semesters where the budget's a little bit tighter, at least my goal would be to prioritize getting money out to the clubs rather than retaining those funds within USG.
Thank you. So for our next question, What are your thoughts on tying club funding to club events that promote dialogue on Case Western community standards and support? And this is related, to a diversity and inclusion initiative. Liam, yeah.
Am I going first? Okay.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
What are your thoughts on potentially tying club funding to club events that promote dialogue on community standards and support to support like diversity and inclusion measures?
As a USG initiative or as other clubs? Do you know?
As I don't like this.
I can do both.
Sorry,
yeah.
This was
no, that's all good. So as a USG initiative, I think that's definitely something we can look into if we're looking at that internal fund that was just established. And then if it comes to other clubs, I think absolutely, if they want to have an event that works on dialogue and community standards, we are happy to fund that just as we would any other event. So I hope that answers the question.
Preeti?
Okay, so I think the way that, from my understanding of the question, I think our response would just be that we don't want to push clubs away from doing, I don't think we want to base our funding on anything except whether it serves the students. So as much as a diversity and inclusion activity or like a forum or the events that we have with the, like we have on campus people who are available to like hold discussions and things like that. I think those are absolutely valuable to people to start discussions. And if clubs want to hold them, we absolutely want to support those things. But I think it's also very valuable for people to just have access to events that are fun for them, going to events that are for art or for jump roping or learning about, a field that they're interested in and being able to connect with people who share that interest and that passion for that field. And I would hesitate to tie it to anything besides whether it serves the student body. And I think that there's a lot of different events with a lot of different kind of core activities that can do that. And so I would continue our sort of process that we have now, which is just evaluating how beneficial these are to the students to the student body and to all the clubs that are holding these events.
Nathan, could I quickly add on to because I think Preeti helped me understand the question better in her response. So if the question is related to tying funding in the sense that, subsequent funding for future events for clubs is reliant upon some sort of a diversity event, if that's the question, then I think I really don't think that we can, as a finance committee, mandate those kinds of things. Obviously, in the last year, we've seen, countless challenges come up along with this community standards initiative that's been going on. And my take on that essentially is to not, institute any top-down mandates from the undergraduate student government down onto clubs, but rather to work alongside them and support those events if they so choose to do them.
Thank you. So our time for this question and answer period is over. Now it's your closing statements. Liam, you can start.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nathan, and the rest of our elections commission, as well as the observer, for putting on this event. Again, it's been great to come together and share all ideas for the upcoming year. And also thanks to Preeti. It's been a pleasure working with you over the last year. And I look forward to continuing this next year, regardless of the outcome of the election. And the VP of Finance, as you all know, is elected by the entire student body. And while I do intend to institute some internal reforms, some of which we've discussed this evening, the primary charge of this office, as I see it, is to improve the finance experience for our 200+ student organizations. Amidst all the structural changes that are set to take place in the upcoming year, I pledge to be a staunch advocate for the best interests of our student orgs and to streamline logistics to enable our community to come back stronger than ever next fall. Thank you all for the questions, and thanks, Nathan, for moderating.
Thank you. Preeti, finish us off.
Hey. So thank you all for your time and your questions. And of course, thank you, Liam. It has been a pleasure to work with you as well. And I look forward to working with you no matter the outcome of this election. And as far as Finance Committee goes, I think I'm so proud of everything that the Finance Committee has done this year and all the years that I've been a part of it. I think we have such a great time doing this work for students and serving students, and we all truly enjoy it. And I think our primary goal is always to be doing better for them and to always be improving and finding new and better ways to serve them and all of the students that participate in them, whether or not they are part of the exec leadership who generally interact with us more, but we want to be serving all of our students. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to run for this position. There's so many things that I look forward to doing to improve our processes and make them better and easier for students.
Please
like
conclude
Liam
your
was saying.
thoughts.
We want to do the best by the students, and I hope that I will have the opportunity to give this position my best effort. So thank you.
Thank you both. Once again, that ends this session. I now invite the candidates for Vice President of Public Relations. Thank you both.